obviously you're not a golfer.
I must have drank me about 15 Dr. Peppers.
Congratulations. How do you feel?
I gotta pay.
We have heard the chimes at midnight, Master Robert.
You're an inanimate fucking object! You told I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Who the fuck has the goddamn gall to call his house on a Tuesday night? God!
What the fuck is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 3 for 3. This is our first episode of 2025. So, thank you all for sticking around with us into the new year. I am joined, as usual, by my two lovely co-hosts, Mr. Matthew Patterson and Mr. Samuel Holler. How are you fellas doing?
Good.
Very good, very good. How are y'all?
Not bad. Looking forward to seeing what the new year brings and all that good shit. And today, well, folks, today we're gonna keep you in suspense. As you can see, our friend Sam is dressed a little loosely over there. Um,
Is that a hood?
Yes, it is a hood.
Hey,
yes. So,
made it
Sam,
sound
are
like
you
you're
are
about
you
to fight
planning
about
on giving the viewers a treat later?
Oh, they're gonna get a show they won't forget, if you know what I mean.
Are you gonna give them a little flash of genius? Sorry to steal your joke, Matt.
If anyone in the room or on the internet has seen Jexy, you'll know exactly what happens.
Yes,
I
and
helicopter my penis.
at this point, we also don't know if Mr. Patterson is wearing pants, so we'll also find that out. We're gonna keep you guys in suspense. This may be our first triple X rated episode this week. So,
Matt, let
We're
us know
going
if the
hard in the new
carpets.
year.
We need to
Huh?
see if the carpets match the drapes with your red beard. Give it to me. Or are you fully shaven?
One false move and you'll see everything.
there we go. Now we got all three in.
Yep.
Uh,
We were making these jokes before we started, and we're like, okay, we got to get these in somehow. And then Matt just improvised that last one on the spot. That was very good. Um, so yes, that's a little sneak preview of what we're going to talk about today. We have three very different movies to talk about, and I would say that we should start with, you know what? I think we'll start with Sam's pick first. Let's go with one false move.
okay.
Take it away, my good sir.
Well, picture this. You're a piece of shit cop. You treat your wife like shit because you're stressed. You apparently have a goddamn baby with a underage girl. You're one of the best working actors to ever live, and your name is Bill Paxton, and you're waiting. You're waiting for these motherfuckers. These motherfuckers are bad and they're coming to your town, and you are not going to let them win. One false move, directed by Carl Franklin, written by Billy Bob Thornton and his co-writer, who I cannot think of the name of right now.
Tom Epperson.
Thank you. Which I honestly think is just himself as well, but like, he just needs to credit someone else so he doesn't come across like too much.
Hmm.
But it's basically about uh Billy Bob Thornton and um I just want to call her Linda. What's her last name? Fuck.
The lady,
Yeah.
uh,
Um,
Williams, is that her last name? I can't remember.
but they basically are two of the baddest motherfuckers to ever hit the streets, and they break in, they kill a bunch of fucking people, like a bunch of people, and they go on the run. And because of a video recording that was taken at one of the crimes, they surmise that they are going to this town where Bill Paxton happens to be the sheriff. And the whole movie takes place over the journey towards the town and to her going to go see her family. And you get their perspective and then Bill Paxton's perspective from the cop that's waiting, that's treated like shit by the FBI. They're assholes about him. They make fun of him behind his back. And his wife is trying, but he's just so stressed. He's being really mean to her. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed this movie. Definitely went in some directions I wasn't expecting, and I didn't expect to not like certain characters that I was going in being like, oh, they're gonna be awesome, but like they're pieces of shit. Take a shot every time I say that. But um, did y'all like it?
Matt?
I liked it. I thought it was very definitely not what I expected it to be because I was not thinking it was going to be as hardcore as it was. And it was just kind of like, or like, and it's also kind of like a noirish kind of in a way. Uh, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the performances. I felt like they were just leaning into, like you said, them just being pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I had fun with it. I definitely think it's I probably would have watched it more than once if I had seen this in like high school. I would have probably ate the shit up a lot more. Not that I didn't but yeah.
Definitely the there are some parts like you said that are a lot more intense than I was expecting going in because like when they put the bags over the people's heads and just started killing them, I was just like Jesus Christ. And then when Billy Bob is waiting for his friend to get there and then or not Billy Bob, I'm just messing with the names today. Who is the guy with glasses that is also with them?
Michael
Oh,
Beach?
Michael Beach.
Michael Beach, thank you. When he's waiting for his friend to come and then they just execute all the dudes in that room, I'm just like, good Lord.
I did not realize until I looked it up afterwards that that was Michael Beach. I'd never seen a movie where he was this young.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so man, this was a roller coaster for me for sure. I started off kind of I was like not completely vibing with it at first because I was like, okay, is this like I kind of had a certain idea of what it was going to be, and I thought kind of, some of it was just like I was like, what is this going to be like this thing or like what are we doing? And but after like about the first 5 or 10 minutes, I started vibing with it a lot more. It just took me a minute to kind of get in. And then for most of the movie, I was really enjoying it. I'd say I enjoyed this for the most part. A lot of it was really good. I thought it was really well written, well directed. The performances were all great. Bill Paxton was a god among men, who was taken from us too fucking soon. Um, and the whole thing was really good for most of it. And then um it just completely out of left field threw in that giant unnecessary plot twist towards the end of Bill Paxton like being the father of her kid. I thought that was like that kind of almost ruined the whole movie for me. I thought it was so unnecessary. I was like, it just came completely out of nowhere. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I gasped. I was like, I- this is what we've been building to the whole movie. Like, nothing at this point has even been remotely said or implied to suggest. I thought it just like, because to me, it was like, I don't know, it was this kind of like charming, like nice story about like, this kind of idiot small town cop who like, I like the story of him like, you know, getting his first shot at a big case and the two LAPD guys coming in and kind of being dicks and not taking him seriously at first. And then, they gradually realize over the course of the movie, oh, maybe we shouldn't underestimate this guy just because we think he's a hick. And they gradually grow closer to him, and he's got a way, like his desire to like finally see some action and have a big case and take down these big criminals and like keeping his family alive because there's the scene where the wife is like trying to convince them to talk him out of it and shit. And I don't know, like, and then you got the other story with the criminals, as the interesting, like, second story. Like, it was just that was kind of what the movie was about for me. And just also about, like, how, I hate that I can't remember the actress's fucking name because she was absolutely incredible. Cinda something. I can't remember her last name.
Linda Williams.
Cindy, okay, yeah. And she was. I don't know why she didn't do anything else after this. She deserved to be so much more famous. She's phenomenal in this movie. And I liked her storyline about like examining, what happens when, you know, you're not necessarily born into a bad family, but like your circumstances around you kind of lead you into, you know, worse circumstances and just like her choices of going down the wrong path rather than trying to go down the right path and escape the poverty and just all these themes that are present in the film that were very interesting to me and these, you know, and then just out of nowhere it becomes like this really ugly just like you completely lose all sympathy and likability for Bill Paxton's character. And I mean, it's one thing to make him a little bit more unlikable, but to have him be a statutory rapist and a
Yeah.
deadbeat absentee father, like when there's been nothing so far to even remotely indicate, like to me, what the last 20 minutes of the movie should have been was not about her trying to convince him to take care of their son and take responsibility for what he did. It should have been more about just them arguing over whether she's justified in doing what she's doing, or him trying to talk her out of it and her trying to be like, you know, well, this is just my life now, or you know, this isn't my fault, or whatever. Like, I don't know. That would have been more interesting, just like keeping the conflict of like their opposing viewpoints and shit. And you know, the audience can decide which one they sympathize with more, or which one they think is more justified with their reasoning. I don't know. That would have been a much more interesting, and it would have been in keeping with the rest of the film. But throwing that gigantic wrench into the plot like that late in the movie, that's the thing too. If they had like set this up or introduced that earlier, that would have been different maybe. But like throwing a plot twist that fucking seismic, like at the in the last 20 minutes of the movie, I was like literally like, what the fuck? Like this, it just threw me. I was like, I was really enjoying it up until this point, and now it's like you lost me. And not that I wasn't still invested in the plot, but I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of weird. It was just really unnecessary, I thought. But in any case, despite that, I did think that um the rest of the movie was really good, really well done. I thought that each of the characters were very interesting, even the smaller characters. Like I thought Bill Paxton's character was very interesting. All three of the criminals were very interesting. Michael Beach was a standout to me. I thought he
Um,
did say
that
what?
moment goes like charges Bill Paxton and stabs him, and then Paxton
Hmm.
right in the stomach. I was like, God damn!
Yeah, and he
Like
was
when
just
we're
so yeah.
you say,
I was just gonna say he was just so good at playing like the like Billy Bob Thornton is the more like kind of obvious like psycho killer, and then Michael Beach is like just like the quiet kind of sociopathic like you know just keeping it cool. Just he did such a good job of always just like you know I was more intimidated by him than by Billy Bob Thornton just because he was always like just kind of sitting there all like. He's cool now, but you know, if you piss him off, he's gonna like explode, you know, and stab you with that knife. He kept pulling that knife out and stabbing people with it.
I thought the scene where they get pulled over by the state trooper or the cop was so well done. I was
Yeah,
like, it's like
yeah.
we're
I was
even
gonna bring because there are a lot of
and
moments
then
of genuine tension in the movie, and the entire sequence from the time they're in the gas station and she's trying to convince him not to do anything, all the way to the end when she shoots the cop. Genuinely incredibly well paced, incredibly suspenseful. I was on the absolute edge of my seat during that entire it's like when they're in the gas station and Billy Bob Thornton is just so ready to go just shoot him and she's just like don't do anything and Michael Beach is sitting in the car like be cool man don't do anything and that whole sequence yeah where they're driving and they get pulled over and I knew I was like she's gonna shoot him isn't she that's what's gonna happen and sure enough she pulls out the gun and I'm just like oh shit man but I also really liked I liked the relationship between Bill Paxton and the two LAPD guys. I thought that was one of my honestly favorite aspects of the film was like, you know, the story of like, you know, the big city cops having to go to this little, you know, small town, you know, with the hick sheriff, you know, and they don't take him seriously. They're like they learn over the course of the movie, like, oh, okay, he's not such a bad guy, which is why I don't like that we learn that he is such a bad guy because it ruins that entire fucking story arc. But it's like, okay, no, he's actually a terrible guy, but
And
um,
when he goes into the diner restaurant area and they're just talking shit, and the shot of his face just like dropping.
yeah. And see, again, that's what I love is, if you take out that plot twist, I love that part at the end where they show up to get him after the shootout. And, they were talking shit about him earlier and not taking him seriously. And then they see all three of them dead and he goes, son of a bitch, got him, like finally, like they see like, oh God, like he did it. Wow, we really underestimated him. I guess he does have what it takes. But it's nullified because you're like, well, I don't give a shit what he's got anymore because he's a fucking, son of a bitch now. But I'm just like, there were so many like character arcs that were just ruined by that plot twist and just the whole movie just got thrown off for me after that. It was so unnecessary. If it was like a different movie, if he would set things up in a different way, you know what I'm saying? It's not that it's even a bad idea. It's just for the movie that we had gotten for the hour and 10 minutes before they revealed that, it just didn't fucking work. It was just way too just sudden and way too late in the movie and way too jarring. But um, yeah, I don't know. And the final, oh my God, the end, the tension building. I just love the cutting to each of the characters and letting the tension build and letting it, really build up the suspense and then the ending shoot. Again, I literally like gasped out loud when Billy Bob Thornton shot her in the head.
Oh
That
yeah.
was fucking insane. I was like, "Oh my God. No." And that
Very
was
end.
that was one of the most fucked up parts of the movie to me. Just her pushing him out of the way, and that's why she gets shot. Like she was trying to save him and shit. It's fucked up.
That's what right before it started, I was like, okay, I think everyone's gonna die but her. And then the moment that happened, I was just like, oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, it was fucking crazy. But I mean, I don't think she was his first love, though. I think he looks to me like a guy whose first love was a chick named Lisa Cohn, but that's just me. Um, you wouldn't, get on Tom Petty's ass about shooting someone in the head, so why would you get on his? Um, um, but yeah, and Billy Bob Thornton was great. All the actors were great. I thought everything was just, I don't know. I thought it was a very charming little indie movie that, had it not been for that plot twist, I, think would have been better. I mean, even with that, I still think it was a very well made, very entertaining movie. I thought it, was very well. I'd never heard of the director Carl Franklin before, but he did a very good job. I looked up his other movies. And most of them I hadn't heard of, but I want to check a few of them out. And yeah, I think, and it's crazy because this was like quite a while before Sling Blade, and Billy Bob was, writing and starring in it like way before then. So cool to see what he was doing all the way back then, I guess. But yeah, I definitely had a fun time watching it. I wasn't sure about it like when I started it up. I was like, okay, is this going to be like kind of like a generic 90s like, crime thing? And, after about the first 5 minutes or so, I really got invested in it and really was like, okay, no, this is really good. Like I really like it's well written, the characters are well developed, a lot of moments of really genuine suspense and tension and, you're definitely and you're in because, you don't want to be only invested in one storyline and not the other. And I was invested in both the the sheriff and the criminals. Like every character that was on the chessboard, I was very and Sam, like you said, another very suspenseful part was, when they go to the guy's house and he just keeps saying, "Okay, we'll wait.
Yeah.
We'll wait till the morning." And he's like, "Well, I don't know if he's gonna be here." Well, we'll wait anyway. Every scene that they were in, I was worried like, is one of them gonna double cross the other? Is one of them gonna Michael Beach calling him a pussy whip motherfucker? And I was
They
like,
were in the
was
car
is
and
one
he
of them
finds
gonna
out
get say what?
they were in the car and he finds out that she took the money and is like yelling at Billy Bob. I was like, that was one of the most intense scenes, and I was waiting for him to just stab the shit out of
Yeah, I
him.
thought one of them was gonna die in that scene. I was convinced. But yeah, but again, I had that one problem, but other than that, I thought it worked. I thought it was really well made. I really liked it. I thought, yeah, and good pick, Sam, because I'd never heard of it before. So it is one of those things that, now I've seen it and I did enjoy it. So, and again, shout out to the GOAT Bill Paxton. Just, good. He was the greatest. Man could do no wrong.
Just
But
smile.
yeah. So now I guess we shall move on to Mr. Patterson's pick, which was, oh, here it comes. Drum roll, please. Flash of genius. Take it away, Matt. Sam, don't take it away unless you want to.
All right.
Hoping you'd
I
say,
have a question for the audience. Have you guys ever been just driving down the road and it's been raining and you
is this after church? Is this
understand,
after church with my family?
huh?
Are you talking about like specifically after church with my family?
Specifically after church with your family, and you wondered why your windshield wipers had that option to be different, you know, lengths. Like, how did that come to be? Because that is exactly what you think about. Well, watch this movie, Flash of Genius, starring Greg Kinnear, Lauren Graham, Alan Alda is kind of in it.
My
Um,
lower my
directed by Mark Abrams, who's really mainly producer. Uh, and yeah, it is about Bob Kearns, who invented the intermittent windshield wiper, and he attempted to shop this pioneer, like thing around, and he, you know, showed it to Ford, and Ford just took it. And the whole movie is how that kind of just ruins his fucking life, because he will
Stole it
not
from
give
me,
up the fight.
Carmine. They took it. Today. Today.
And yeah, it literally ruins his fucking life. He fumbles Lauren Graham.
yeah.
Rip. Um, and kind of loses everyone up until the end when he wins. But he doesn't get Lauren Graham back. RIP. But he does get eventually a bunch of money and credit for the invention, which was nice. But really, I mean, I liked it a lot, but it is a very just a brick and mortar like story, about this dude's life. It's not really I don't know. I liked it, but I was not completely, you know, enthralled by it, but I did like it. What did you guys think?
Yeah.
Um, I was very interested in this mainly because I did not know anyone that was in it other than Greg Kinnear, and so when Lorelai Gilmore showed up, Dermot Mulroney shows up, and Alan Alda like pops in. I'm just like,
Fucking hairpiece on Dermot Mulroney.
Our
That gets its own
third,
credit.
our third movie on this podcast with Dermot Mulroney in it.
kind of
I,
crazy.
This in a row?
I don't know in a row, but I know last week, no, week before last, he was in The Family Stone. And
Yeah,
then I think the week before that, he was in Kansas City. So third one recently. So we're the Dermot Mulroney fan club over here.
becoming a
No
podcast.
Dylan McDermott in this house.
Yeah, you finally got his name right. Both episodes, the last two, you kept getting his name wrong.
Um, but yeah, I was really invested, and I was really mad at Dermot Mulroney. He, why the fuck was he not standing up when he was in court and being like, "I was there. This fucker
Because he's a fucking
invented
coward.
this shit, and they stole it." No,
He
he
didn't
kept
want to get fucked over by Ford.
exactly
You don't
fuck
fuck with the big
Ford,
three.
He
fuck
saw he
Henry
saw
Ford.
he saw Tucker the man in his dream. He knows how this shit goes. He knows what's up.
You know
Um,
what Bob Kern said? Fuck the big three, there's just the big me.
uh,
Oh,
um,
Oh, that's the best joke you've ever had on this show. Jesus Christ. That tip of the hat to you, sir. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, so you liked it, Sam?
enjoyed it. it was not like the biggest wow ever, but I was like, I swear to God, if he does not win this case, then I'm gonna be mad because I had heard about him winning with Chrysler, but right before watching the movie when I was going to look it up, and then I was like, no, why am I doing this? It's a real life story. Let me just find out what happened during the movie. Um, but also like his speech at the end was so like built up, but then it also was like not a big deal at all. It was weird. Um, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Um, yeah, I had never heard of this movie before in my life. I'd never heard of this story before in my life. This was like, I had no idea what this was, so I just went in totally blind. And man, this one really won me over. I really enjoyed this a lot. Like you said, it is kind of like, it's not the most original biopic ever. It does hit kind of a lot of the standard beats, but man, something about it, it really was just heartwarming. I had a really fun time watching it. I think you could tell that on every level, there was a lot of genuine passion and care that went into this. And, I read that the director, Mark Abrams, like you said, he's mainly just a producer. He's only directed one other movie besides this. Um, but and you can kind of tell some of it is kind of awkwardly directed. But and the camera work at times isn't the best. But but I read that this was like a huge passion project of his. And over the years, a lot of filmmakers went to Bob Kearns asking to make a movie about his story, and he turned them all down because he didn't think any of them had the right idea for it. But he said yes to this one because you could tell Mark Abrams was really passionate about it and really cared about getting it right, and he promised to make it as faithful to real life as possible. Um, and he spent a lot of time getting to know him, and that comes through. I think everyone involved really seems like they're trying to do a really good job. And I thought it was a really heartwarming time. I really thought it was very interesting learning about the story. It was very, and I said earlier in the movie, I said, yeah, I've seen Tucker the Man in His Dream. I know what's going to go down here. They're going to steal this shit. He's going to have to fight him in court. I seen what they tried to do to Jeff Bridges. They're going to try to do it to my boy Greg Kinnear. Fuck. And I want to say right now on this podcast, I want to make this official. Ford Motors is now for me what the Hoover Dam is to Sam. Fuck Ford Motors.
Fuck Ford Motor
Fuck
Company.
Ford Motors. I drive a Nissan.
Ford.
Fuck Ford.
Fuck Charlie DeFeo.
Fuck Charlie
Like
DeFeo and his
Dia.
lemon meringue pie.
Um,
There you
I will
go.
say,
Now
I
we
just
have the Hoover people and Ford after us. Man, we're just public enemy number one on this podcast.
I wanted to shout out Mitch Pileggi. I don't know how to say his like last name.
Pelagie.
From X-Files, Walter Skinner. God, he was so good in this playing an asshole.
Yeah, he didn't
I
have
was
too many
like,
scenes, but he was a big asshole in it.
yeah. And I think the movie for me also, the one thing because I didn't look up any of it, so I didn't know if he won or not. So I honestly was thinking like he might not win. And they did a lot of a good job at like kind of making you be like, just take the deal, dude. Like, why aren't you
Yeah.
taking the, you
And
know?
that's, again, that's I don't know, like to me there was something it was such a good combination of things. It was like the combination of the real situation being so interesting that, you don't really have to try that hard to make it I feel like a good story because it already is one. And the fact that, again, well written, like you said, there are so many scenes where so many people, whether it's Ford, whether it's his lawyers, whether it's, his family, are trying to get him to back off. And even I, at one point in the movie, was like, dude, just take the deal or whatever. I was like, because you really, it is kind of, you see the stress it's not only putting him through, but the family. And that was kind of when Lauren Graham left him, that was when I was kind of like, dude, just it's not worth it anymore. Just fucking take it. And they do such a good job of showing you the desperation that he's going through, of showing you the odds that he's up against, and Greg Kinnear's performance. This is one of my favorite performances I've ever seen him give. I mean, something about the way he just played him, I thought made him very sincere, very, he's weird and he's kind of off, but you can tell he's a good dude, who really cares. It's like I kept saying to myself so many times when I thought he should just take the settlement or whatever. I kept saying, man, I can't say I'd do anything differently if I was in your shoes. Every time I kept saying it, I was like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, if I said I wouldn't do the same thing you're doing, I'm a liar, or that I don't understand at least. So I understand why because I mean, it's personal for him. It's not about the money. It's not about, it's not even about that they cheated him. It's about like he has dreamed of this his entire life. Like his entire life he's dreamed of inventing a product that, that was his and that he got credit for, and that, that's just been like as long as he can remember what he's wanted. And so that's what it's about. It's about they're not going to steal my dream from me. So that's something that everyone can relate to. And I think that's for me anyway, that's one of the reasons I enjoyed it so much. I thought that was a very relatable theme. And I thought, again, a lot of the Sam, like you said, his last speech, it was big, but it wasn't like it also kind of wasn't at the same
It
time.
wasn't like a hurrah moment at the very
Right.
end.
Like you're used to in courtroom dramas. It's not like To Kill a Mockingbird where he just like has this epic final. He just kind of says it and it's meaningful, but it's like, yeah, you don't, or it's not like Al Pacino at the end of Scent of a Woman where everyone breaks into applause or anything like that.
Makes
But
me
it is still meaningful. And there were moments also earlier to me where I was like, wow, that's really like one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the part where they're trying to say like he didn't invent anything new. He took the parts that already existed. And then he pulls out the copy of A Tale of Two Cities and he's like, so these are all words that existed and he just used them in a different way to make something original. I was like, shit, wow. Because at first I was like, I don't know if you should be representing yourself, man. I don't know if that's the best idea. And then after that scene, I was like, never fucking mind. You know what you're doing. That was brilliant.
I
So,
really liked at the end when he like finishes and he says thank you, but then goes over to the mic and like says it directly into it. And the amount of like difference in the volume of sound makes me feel like his speech, even though it wasn't like on the edge of my seat gripping for me, I bet so the person sitting in the back of that courtroom, Dermot Mulroney, is like, "What's he saying?" Like they're like gripped and leaned forward and all about it. But it just
yeah,
puts into respect of how like, yeah, you got to be as quiet as fucking possible in a courtroom because sometimes people are not talking in front of the microphone.
right.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and I think I liked how, they kind of did pay attention to like realistic things like that, where I like how so many times in courtroom dramas they don't usually follow the rules of actual like court, but I like how when Greg Kinnear is like walking towards one of the witnesses, the judge is like, unless you're handing him something, stay there by the lectern. And I'm just like, okay, good. Like I like how they're paying attention to details like that and shit.
You know what he was missing though was when he was representing, he was doing the questioning of himself. He didn't do the foghorn leghorn accent as the lawyer.
I do declare,
I do declare, Mr.
our
Puddles, is
windshield
that your real name?
Ford Motor Company has stolen my design for the
Well, that didn't work out for the Joker, so he was like, okay, I'm not going to do that here. I want to win this case. Um,
Yeah. So I
but
will say my fine, unless does anybody else have anything to say about this? 'Cause I have some
only
final thing.
that well, two things. One, I had either forgotten or not realized, I'm not sure until this movie, how fucking fine Lauren Graham is. But I'm aware of it now, so I just want to throw that out there. And I'm very sorry that Greg Kinnear lost her. I was very sad. I really wanted them to get back together. That made me sad when they didn't get back together at the end because they
She
had
didn't
such
hear
a
the
had
amount
such a
of money
great
he was getting.
relationship. Say what?
She didn't hear the amount of money he was getting.
He wanted I guess he
He was
wanted
like
Gil Less
13 million.
girls.
What? Huh?
He
What?
wanted Gil Less girls, not Gil More girls.
Yeah.
But and also just, again, I say it every week I feel like, but it's the truth. This is one of my favorite parts of doing the show is just watching movies like this that I've never heard of that I end up really enjoying. Because I'd never heard of this. I probably never would have heard of this, but it was a really fun time. I literally, you're invested when I literally got up and cheered when they read the verdict. I stood up and was like, "Fuck yes!" So, really invested. And Ford Motors can suck a giant dick.
I do find it really cool. Side note, the composer of this composed the music for Alpha Dog, and which is the movie you need to see, Jackson, if you have not
Yes.
seen it.
So I've heard.
Um,
It's so good.
but I just enjoyed the music in this quite a bit. It also helps get get into it. So
And so I have a call to action for whenever this comes out. I need anybody who's watching this in honor of Bob Kearns, just so we know what we're missing. You should go outside and rip off your windshield wiper. Just one, just so you know what you're missing.
And
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 thanks for being grateful for the intermittent windshield wiper for not
and
being,
and to be really like Bob Kearns, don't rip off your own. Go to somebody else's house and rip theirs off.
especially if they have a Ford.
Yes. Yeah, make
yeah,
sure it's a Ford. Because fuck Ford. Um, but
fuck Henry Ford too.
yes, absolutely fuck Henry Ford. And fuck yeah, fuck
Really,
fuck
DeFeo,
Charlie DeFeo and his lemon meringue pie.
the piece of shit.
Um, but
And
all
his
right.
grandma's lemon meringue pie.
So what?
His grandma's lemon meringue pie specifically.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Not even
Uh,
his.
um, well, all right. Oh, and also just to add one little thing at the end of Flash of Genius, Alan Alda's an asshole.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
was stunned at how quickly he turned on him. Like, first of all, he was only in, I think, maybe
Two
$400,000.
scenes or three
like
scenes.
two, maybe three scenes, very small part. But
But he's on the poster.
first of all, boy, did he crush it. He was fantastic during his scenes. Second of all, I was shocked at just how quickly he just became a dick and just like, okay, you know what, you piece of shit, take the fucking offer right now. I'm like, whoa, man, calm down, Hawkeye. This is a little too much. Because I was like, at first I was like, I trust you, Alan Alda. And then after that, I was like, oh no, this is not the Alan Alda I trust. This is the Alan Alda who tried to fuck Leo DiCaprio in The Aviator. That's what we're dealing with here.
Which was really convincing though. Like that was a really
Absolutely.
convincing.
As both sides of it, he was very convincing. Yeah. He's just one of those guys you trust. Again, unless you're Howard Hughes, then don't trust him. So now we move into our final picture of the episode, which is my pick, which would be Redbeard, which is the 1965 Akira Kurosawa drama. And the plot for this one is there's this it's in the 19th century, and there's this young doctor, and he's a little arrogant, selfish motherfucker is what he is. And he goes to this clinic, this little clinic in this rural area with a bunch of poor, sick people in it. And he is there just to observe briefly. But what he really wants to do is he wants to be the Shogun's personal doctor. You see, he went to this fancy medical school and he thinks he's going to go be the Shogun's personal doctor, and he's going to be rich and famous and a great doctor and everyone's going to love him. But what he doesn't know and what he finds out very soon is that he's actually going to work as an intern at this clinic run by Redbeard, Dr. Redbeard, who is
Not a pirate.
not a pirate, despite what he sounds like. No, I can't remember how to pronounce his actual name, but Redbeard is his nickname because he has a little bit of a red beard. Um, and yeah, so he's like the young doctor. He's pissed off. He's like, I don't want to work at this little clinic with this fucking Redbeard guy. I'm gonna do whatever I can to get fired. I want to, I'm gonna act like an asshole. I'm not gonna do my job. I'm gonna leave. Um, but Redbeard is like, nah, just stay here for a minute. I think you'll like it here. And over time, the young doctor is changed and made into a better person by witnessing the plight of his patients, and he gets more attached to the clinic, and he grows to respect Redbeard. And yeah, it's a very emotional ride. Say what?
calling for succubi.
Indeed, yeah, succubi trying to kill him, as they often do, those succubi.
I do
But
find it really interesting that his beard is the only really set thing that you know what the color is in the entire film.
that's true. Um,
Power
but
of black and white.
You could
when
have
he
called him Blackbeard. Would have been copyright infringement.
or graybeard, that wouldn't have worked either. But
Yeah.
yeah, so this
Brownbeard would
one,
have been insinuating something different.
say what?
Said Brownbeard would have insinuated something different.
I guess so. But yeah, holy shit, what a ride this one was. Fucking hell. This movie hit me like a fucking train. I just like, it's funny because, the last like 2022, 2023, I wasn't watching much. 2024 was the year where I really started like watching shit again. And I saw a lot of good stuff, and there are a lot of I saw a lot of movies, and there are a lot of directors who I got into who I hadn't really yet, and Kurosawa was one of them. At the start of 2024, I hadn't seen a single one of his movies, and he was someone who I was determined, like, I'm really going to get into him this year. This was, so I figured, what better way to close out the year than, with one more of his. And this is the eighth one of his I've seen. And it's not only my favorite movie of his that I've seen, which is saying a lot. This I think is my favorite movie I saw all of last year. Like, and one of my favorite. I can't tell you how much I love this. This is just, I mean, the things this made me feel, the brilliance of this film. Uh, I almost don't even know where to start. I'll turn it over to you guys.
I'm saying.
I, I loved it. It was a little hard for me at first to like get into it. Just because I was in the midst of doing a lot of stuff the last few days. But it what's his name? Marasuo Sato, whoever did the music. It's it just every
And
time the music played, I was like, oh my God, this inspirational and what I aspire for.
yeah, and
And
he does pretty much all of Kurosawa's movies and usually kills it, but I was watching this thinking, man, he really killed it on this one. Like this is my favorite score of his that I've heard. And what's funny, Sam, that'll blow your mind even more about it is on pretty much every movie he ever did for Kurosawa, he only had about a week to compose the music, including on this one. So the idea that he could come up with this in a week is pretty wild.
pretty grim movie for sure.
It is grim. There are so many parts of it that are just so emotionally devastating and sad, but at the same time, it is very uplifting in a way because it's like, you know, he the young doctor who I didn't realize for the entire movie is the kid from Sanjuro, which is he made a couple movies before this. I didn't even recognize him. I was like, holy shit, I didn't know it was the same guy. I can't remember the actor's name. Yuzo Kayama, I want to say is his name. But he was fantastic. I mean, all the performances were great. He was just so good. But it's uplifting in a way because it's heartwarming to see his character go from being this completely selfish prick to being this really empathetic doctor who really cares about like he at the end he's like I'm staying here and that's it. I'm not leaving. No one's gonna make me like this is my
We're gonna,
home now. I care too much about this shit. And say what?
well, like where he was like, I'm sorry, but we're gonna live a poor life, but it's gonna be a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
And
And him telling Redbeard he's just like he's like you're being foolish. He's like, well, that's what you taught me, like I learned from you, like, and you see how much Redbeard has really rubbed off on him by the end. And you know
I really love the rain in the movie as well. It just kind of like had this kind of feeling to it
all of
that
his
like
movies have scenes in the rain, and they always are so atmospheric. But yeah, and the whole thing was just I loved the genius idea of, and I think it will hold up even better on a second watch once you know the stories of all the patients. Like because learning each of their stories, I thought it was so genius the way they introduce you to all these patients, and then you learn these like super complex backstories that they all have that endears him to them even more. But like, dude who's dying, who had the story about his wife and shit and the earthquake and all that, like, that whole thing, when you go back and watch the movie a second time, every scene with that character before then, I'm sure is like much, much richer because you now have that information about who he is, why he's behaving the way he is. It informs you so much more. And you know, I just can't get over the brilliance of every single, that whole sequence was absolutely just got me super emotional, just him describing the whole thing about his wife and how she died. And now just that scene, just heartbreaking. I mean, some of the most honestly, most human, heartbreaking moments I've ever seen in a movie. Just when he's like reaching his arms up toward the sky, like, oh, she's coming, finally we can be together again and shit. And I'm like, that just hit me like a fucking train. And then just the whole sequence with, I don't know what the fuck that actress's name is who played the girl who was talking about um her husband was fucking her mom and shit.
Yeah.
That actress, Jesus Christ, that is some of the best acting I've ever seen. That entire scene where she's just going into that whole thing, that she seemed so genuinely shaken, so emotional. So, I mean, like that whole part was just absolutely brilliant. The complexity of each of the stories, everyone had something. I mean, like every character had something. The little kid, Jesus fuck. I mean, like, and they introduced that so late into the movie, and then he becomes such a crucial part of the story, where you think, oh, he's just a little kid who's stealing food, and then he becomes one of the biggest emotional cores. I was literally, I mean, I almost just broke down crying when they were shouting into the well, trying to get him to come back to life. I was like, oh my God, this is so fucking heart-wrenching, but at the same time, it is so uplifting to see how much they all care. And, because like the four old ladies who were there, they are like chasing him out of the place at first. They're calling him a little rat. They hate him. And then they're all just like, they've grown so attached to him. They're screaming down the well to try to get him to come back. It's like and then again, like the heartwarming scene of, well, I mean, and really the heart of the movie to me was the relationship between the young doctor and the girl. Like that was honestly, and again, that isn't introduced until about halfway through the film, and that becomes really like probably the most integral part of the second half. And her whole story was just like incredible. I thought she was such a great character, and that actress, I mean, for such a young actress, she just really crushed it and was just one of the best actors in the movie. And it was just so sweet. I mean, and it was so nice because the whole journey, I love the 3 hour runtime is so justified to me because it really lets them flesh out every last character arc and the transformations that you see everyone go through. It's not rushed, it's gradual, and that's what makes it so effective. Like, um, first of all, just her not behaving at first and then just taking a good amount of time to just show him trying to get through to her, but he can't. And then finally, she like smacks the cup out of his hand. And that was a really well-earned moment. That's the first time in the movie he shows any genuine like emotion, like any genuine sadness, that kind of stoic exterior. It was starting to break down, but that's when he finally kind of lets it drop and he starts crying and he's like, "Oh my God, you poor girl, like you're really nice. I know you are. It's just the things you've been through and shit." And again, it's so well earned because it took so long to get there, and there's so many moments like that where, and again, just like her taking care of him when he's sick, and the whole thing was just incredibly well written and well paced, and just every single moment in the movie is just beautiful, and just the whole thing really just, I mean, it was just overwhelmingly good. I mean, like it's really just, I mean, a masterwork. I really think it's one of his best films. I really think that, he I mean every single moment. And then again, just like Maybe I think my favorite Toshiro Mifune performance in any of his movies, just because it's so different than any of the ones I've seen, where he's very stoic, very level-headed. Like he makes Redbeard a very well-developed character just through his performance, and you get a sense of who the guy is pretty quickly.
Yeah, I
Because
read that it was his last collaboration with him.
I know it's sad. Yeah, it's the last time they way to go out on a fucking high note though. But it is sad that this is the last time they work together. Yeah. But he was he was fantastic. Everybody that scene, oh my God, that scene was chilling where the mantis comes into his room and is like that was so well shot. My God, I mean that shot where she comes in and is just kind of like looming over him when she comes in the door and just very slowly closes it. I was just like I was kind of with him in that scene. I was cowering, just like, oh God, oh my God, like what are you gonna do? You're just worried for him. And I love how it holds on kind of the wide shot of them for a really long time, and then when she's trying to stab him with the hairpin, I'm just like, oh, that whole scene was so suspenseful, and every part of it. I mean, just literally every single scene, there's just something to be impressed by. Every single moment, there's something to be impressed by. It's just like, you know, the whole thing really, every single character. I love how, you know, um, like every character you're attached to, like the cooks, the old ladies, you get attached to them by the end. The other doctor who's there with them, the girl who's taking care of the mantis, everybody in some way becomes an important part of the ensemble. That scene where they tell the bitch ass lady to go away, and they say, I was with them in that scene. I was like, over my dead body, you're gonna take that girl back. Fuck you. Get the fuck out of here. That was such a, again, that's what I mean is like there are so many moments that are so grim and just so unbelievably bleak. But moments like that just warm your heart to see the entire hospital basically unify to protect the girl, and who a lot of them were annoyed by her and talking shit and saying there's no helping that girl, and then they're beating the lady up trying to get rid of her so she can't take her back.
That's something where I haven't seen The Brutalist because it hasn't come out near me, but I'm so happy that movies are starting to slowly have intermissions again because that like the feeling and the vibe of after you come back into the story and you realize that this community has built over the course of the last 2 hours. It just really like had a just whole different vibe to me that I really enjoyed, and that's why I really enjoyed that the music kind of went on for a long time, but that's because it was this kind of dramatic shift in time and what these people are and why they want to be there and who they care about and their priorities and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And again, like you said, you're like at the end when he's saying like I'm not leaving, that's it, I'm staying here. You're so with him. I was definitely like because you have become so attached to the hospital, to this world that they've built that you've been immersed in for the last, almost 3 hours. And I remember I'm just like, yeah, no, we're not like don't you dare leave. Like you're right there with him. You don't want him to leave either. You're just like, nope, this is where you belong. This is where you got to stay. This is where, um and they really do get you so yeah, just so attached. And the whole movie really, I think, I mean, truly every single character, every single moment, every single shot, every single like aspect of the movie to me was just beautiful. I mean, just I can't say enough about it. It's like I think technically, like objectively, Seven Samurai is still his best movie, but this is not far behind. This is my personal favorite, and I think, this is pretty much right there with that as far as I'm concerned. It's just like a work of art, just like, best one of the best things I've ever seen, and just like, I also have to say, um, of course, my boy Toshiro was holding it down as he always does. Um, but the other one who I'd like to shout out, who is also in all eight of the Kurosawa movies I've seen, is Takashi Shimura, who had a very small part in this one, but a good scene. He was the old guy who was having the conversation about like, so there's no such difference between a good doctor and a bad doctor, is there? Like the doctors don't really save people's lives, people who are meant to die die anyway, don't they? And he's just like, oh yeah, doctors. What's that great line he had where he's like, I've offended you, haven't I? And he's like, no, all doctors have to butter up to rich people or something. That's who I was like, is that his only scene? 'Cause that was only like a 2 minute scene, but it was still cool seeing him. But yeah, shout out to him for being in all eight movies. Because he's got a bigger part than that, but I guess he just gave him a small part in this one. But
Did you like it, Matt?
Oh yeah, I liked it a lot. I was expecting it to be more of like, his like samurai kind of thing, and then when I found out it was like, oh, hospital drama. I was like, this is gonna be way different than I fucking thought, and like, I really enjoyed it. Like Jackson was saying, it's very beautiful, and like the black and white. It always surprises me what they can do with it every time I see one like a movie. I'm like, damn. So
yeah, cinematography was gorgeous. Shout out to his cinematographers, Asakazu Nakai and Takao Saito. They're both crushing it every time. And like but Matt, it's funny because I also thought it was going to be that, like one of the more samurai movies. And was kind of shocked that of what it actually was. But it's funny because he still got one of those scenes in there where he beats up the thugs outside the brothel. I was like, okay, so this is the scene in every single one of his samurai movies where normally he's getting them with a sword, but this time he's just using his bare fist to just beat the shit out of them. I was like, all right, he still managed to get one of these one last time, before they stop working together. One more scene of Toshiro Mifune just, taking some fools down. Say what?
Going ham.
Going ham for sure. I was like, man, this doctor's got a fucking mean right hook. And just the quick shots of you can see like their broken arms and shit. I was like, oh my God. It was kind of brutal. But yeah, I mean truly just can't say enough about it. It up until the last fucking frame to me was just like a masterpiece and really just yeah, I couldn't have picked a better one to close out the year with truly. So yeah, great, incredible, incredible movie. Um but all right, fellas, well, it's do or die time.
Right.
Are we going to give the people what they want?
You ready for my next flash?
Oh boy. Well, you
boy.
Grant Gustin because you're about to flash us. Oh my God. Well,
We gotta
now we
put
can't upload this episode on YouTube. We gotta put a censor bar around it, or oh my good God.
Oh
You guys
shit.
like that? Is that what you guys wanted, huh?
Yeah,
I don't want to talk.
give the people what they want.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Do you have anything to show
Well,
the audience, Jackson?
um,
Make them ignore this face.
Jackson's trying to figure out how to cut that.
that's where my brain is going right now. Is am I going to leave that in or not? Yeah, we'll see. Um, but yeah, now we're gonna from this episode forward. This is going to be an OnlyFans exclusive podcast. So look for us there because YouTube won't have us anymore, I'm sure.
Don't forget the windshield wipers.
Yes, of course. If we take anything away from today's episode, it's fuck Ford and
Fuck Ford.
take your neighbor's windshield wipers if they have a Ford. But yeah, so I guess this has been the triple X rated episode of Three for Three, Vin Diesel motherfuckers, giving you all that triple X action.
Return of Xander Cage or State of the Union.
State of the Union, yeah. Or maybe it's Ice Cube, who knows? Maybe it's not Vin Diesel, maybe it's Ice Cube. Um, but yeah, so I hope you enjoyed. I really hope you enjoyed. I mean, you had a lot to enjoy this episode, you know what I'm saying? A lot to enjoy. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Keep watching movies, fellas, and here's to 2025. I have a feeling it'll be a good year for us. We're starting off right by we only had one crash this entire episode. That's got to be a record.
We're 3 for 3 this week, aren't we?
We
Yes,
are.
we sure are. With I guess
Yeah,
the little asterisks for me on one false move, but yes, 3 for 3, I would say.
cool.
So
That's all.
good way to start off the year.
Yeah, great
Yep.
way.
So peace out, everybody.